What's up, YouTube? So today we're looking at making Techno Growls with Vital. So this can be used in various different genres. They're not specifically made for techno. In fact, this technique was actually inspired by kind of more bass music style stuff. But I've been hearing the sound in more modern techno, even psytrance, quite a bit lately. So I figured, perfect opportunity to show you guys how I've been using it. So let's just open up a instance of Vital over here, and I quickly just want to tune it to the key that we're working on in this track, which is F. So I'm going to pop in a transpose over here and tune it up by +5. So it's a pretty basic technique that makes use of the basic shape sine wave and the harmonic series in the factory wave tables in Vital. So the idea here is we're going to kind of mimic the sound of distortion, which our ears kind of know by adding harmonics, by simply just adding those harmonics. So this is a pretty interesting technique. What we can do is we can just kind of cycle this wavetable position. As you can see here, this wavetable just sweeps through the harmonic series upwards. So we can kind of cycle upwards and drop about halfway, but we want to make sure that the sine is kind of full amplitude. We don't want to go halfway in between these tables. Does that make sense? So choose one that's full amplitude. We can turn down the level for now. Then we're going to go over to the effects, add a distortion. We can add a soft clip, turn the drive up quite a bit. And then what we can do here is we can actually turn down the input of the MIDI over here. Okay, cool. So now if we turn up this level, you'll notice it instantly gives us that kind of distortion-like sound. So the basis of this technique kind of revolves around this. A sine wave, a harmonic of that sine, we modulate the level, and then we distort it a little bit. And then obviously the rest is kind of like fine-tuning and post-processing and that kind of thing. So what we can do here is we can add a macro to this level, like this. We don't want to go all the way. We want to go to about 70%, just so it can kind of match the original oscillator over here. Like that, perfect. So what we can do is we can set up a clip that's going to modulate this macro, and then we can create a couple of different variations of this. We can add a MIDI clip, and we can just put in one long note like this. And so now what we can do is we can add the automation to the macro. Cool, so it seems pretty simple now, right? But when we combine this with a little bit of processing, like for example, some reverb, some EQ, and then some sidechain off the main kick of the track, you can really get some nice effects going. So what I want to do is I want to Control G. That's going to group this into a group. Then what I can do is I can apply a sidechain. So I'm just going to copy paste the one that I've already prepared. One thing to note is that this is taking the input from the kick channel, right? And then I've also got some transient shaping in this SCFX. And so what that does is it just makes the attack of the signal a little bit more snappy. Cool, so I'm putting this on the group, and I'll explain why in a moment. What we can do here is we can apply some reverb. I'm just going to use Reach. This is a really cool, really well-priced reverb plugin. Most reverbs will do, but just experiment. Okay, let's add some of the rest of the track to compare how it's going. What we can also do is we can apply a bit of attack envelope over here onto the amp envelope just so that initial sine is not so audible, so that it doesn't interfere with the sine, like the main bass of the track. We can also EQ it a little bit like this, just to remove some of that low frequency. And so now the trick is to render a couple of examples of this out. So what I want to do actually is, let's just group this again. So here what I want to do is I want to put this reverb onto the group. And so if I render this or bounce this, it's just going to be the dry sample, right? But the group has the reverb, so we're going to result with the same sound now. Does that make sense? So now we can mute that, we can make another variation. So what I do is I usually put this in the clip launcher, I'll remove it, and then we can unmute and we can carry on working, create some other variations here. So some things that I like to do here is perhaps we can change this wavetable position to some of the other harmonics in the series. Another cool effect is to chorus before the distortion. So the trick is to just make a bunch of variations here. We could also use the compressor after the distortion. And then we can boost individual bands here. Another trick is to use the flanger before the distortion, but freeze it, set the offset down, and then use the center to basically just like create a comb filter that mimics a different type of feedback or resonant effect. We could also use third-party distortion plugins over here. Like, for example, Rift is a really good one because there's some really nice presets that you can kind of just cycle through to quickly find some good stuff. See, so the idea is we essentially just like creating a bunch of one-shot, growl, sweep type of sounds, and then we're going to riff them in the actual arrangement. So what I do is I generally don't use that kind of like full sound. We might just use like just the middle part like this, for example, or we just find like the best parts of each one, you know. Don't use the full one, just a couple of seconds, you know. Maybe just the first sweep or the initial or the middle part or whatever part suits the arrangement the best, you know? Awesome. I think that's about it for today. I'm going to be uploading this Vital preset to my Patreon for all my $5 supporters. So if you want to know what that's all about, check out the link in the description. If you like what I do here and you want to support me, also check out my Patreon and hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet. I will see you guys next time. Cheers.